In the sun-drenched, bustling agora of ancient Athens, where merchants haggled and politicians debated, there lived a man whose mind was sharper than any sword, and whose only weapon was a question. His name was Socrates, though in our story, we shall call him Lyra, a philosopher in training seeking guidance. Lyra had always been a quiet observer, a girl with a thirst for knowledge that even the grandest libraries could not quench. She revered the established order, the pronouncements of the elders, and the wisdom passed down through generations. To question them felt akin to sacrilege. Yet, a subtle unease gnawed at her. Why did things have to be the way they were? Were the answers truly as simple as they seemed? One sweltering afternoon, Lyra found herself amidst a crowd, listening to a renowned sophist orator, Master Theron. Theron spoke with captivating eloquence about justice, defining it as that which benefits the powerful. He presented his arguments with such force and conviction that the crowd roared its approval. Lyra, however, felt a chill. If justice only served the powerful, what of the weak? What of truth itself? After Theron finished, a short, unassuming man with a peculiar gait, whom the Athenians affectionately and sometimes mockingly called the gadfly, stepped forward. He was Socrates. He began not with a declaration, but with a simple, almost timid question directed at Theron. "Esteemed Master Theron," Socrates began, his voice soft yet piercing, "you speak of justice benefiting the powerful. Tell me, then, does a physician in his craft benefit himself or his patients?" Theron, accustomed to grand debates, scoffed. "A physician heals, old man, and in doing so, earns his livelihood. So he benefits both." "Indeed," Socrates countered gently. "But the art of medicine, its very essence, is the well-being of the patient, is it not? The payment is a secondary consequence, not the primary goal of the craft itself. Similarly, is not the art of justice, truly practiced, concerned with the well-being of the polis, and by extension, all its citizens, not just a select few?" The crowd, which moments ago had cheered Theron, now fell silent, intrigued. Theron, flustered, tried to recover, but Socrates continued to weave his web of questions, each one carefully crafted to expose the underlying assumptions and contradictions in Theron's impressive rhetoric. He asked about the nature of goodness, the essence of courage, and the true meaning of wisdom, always returning to the idea that true knowledge lay not in proclaiming answers, but in understanding the limitations of one's own understanding. Lyra watched, mesmerized. She saw not arrogance in Socrates, but a profound humility. He wasn't trying to win an argument, he was trying to understand, and in doing so, he was inviting others to embark on the same journey. The courage he displayed was not in shouting down an opponent, but in daring to ask the questions that nobody else dared to utter. That day, something shifted within Lyra. The foundations of her previously held beliefs, once solid and unyielding, began to tremble. She realized that true understanding wasn't about passively absorbing information, but about actively dissecting it, examining it from every angle and challenging its very premise. Over the following months, Lyra sought out Socrates whenever she could. She listened to his dialogues, not just with her ears, but with her mind, learning to mimic his method. She began to question everything: the customs of her family, the pronouncements of the oracle, the very definition of happiness and virtue that everyone took for granted. Her newfound courage, however, came at a price. Her peers found her unsettling. Her family worried she was becoming too philosophical, too argumentative. When she questioned a widely accepted religious dogma, she faced ostracism. When she challenged the logic of a revered elder, she was accused of insolence. There were moments of despair, when Lyra felt isolated, when the weight of societal disapproval threatened to crush her spirit. She considered abandoning her quest, retreating into the comforting silence of conformity. But then, she would recall Socrates' calm, unwavering gaze, his quiet determination to pursue truth, even when it led him down dangerous paths. She remembered his most profound teaching: the unexamined life is not worth living. This thought became her anchor. What good was a life lived in ignorance, even if it was peaceful? What joy was there in accepting truths that had never been truly tested? Armed with this renewed conviction, Lyra continued her journey. She learned that questioning wasn't about tearing things down for the sake of it, but about building stronger, more coherent understandings. It wasn't about being defiant, but about being genuinely curious. It wasn't about being popular, but about being true to oneself. Years later, Lyra herself became a respected voice in Athens, though not as an orator, but as a teacher of critical thought. Her students learned not just what to think, but how to think. They learned the immense power and indeed the vital necessity of the courage to question everything. For it was in that courage that true wisdom began, and it was through that courage that humanity could ever hope to advance beyond the shadows of ignorance and towards the light of genuine understanding. And as the sun set over the Acropolis, Lyra often looked towards the spot where Socrates once stood, a silent tribute to the man who taught her that the most profound revolution begins not with a shout, but with a question.